Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So we are long ways away from London. We are in Gambrel State Park, which is in Frederick.
On a mountain.
Maryland. Yes, on a mountain. You can kind of see over there, this is a little, what's called the tea room. It's you gotta hire it out. It's a private function, for private functions now. But over there is a beautiful view of sort of like Middletown Valley in the south. Anyway, doesn't matter. It's a very beautiful and scenic place. It's also very busy as it's 4th of July weekend, so you may see a few people passing by and hear some loud music, but hopefully no fireworks. Okay, but we're here to read the Bhagavatam, nevertheless.
Canto 4, Chapter 6, Text 8.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Text 8. After thus instructing all the demigods, the Pitas and the lords of the living entities, Lord Brahma took them with him and left for the abode of Lord Shiva, known as the Kailash Hill. Purport. The abode of Lord Shiva, which is known as Kailash, is described in the 14 verses which follow.
Nice.
So now the demigods are going to Kailash to seek out Lord Shiva to apologize for their behavior.
Okay, so we'll read some descriptions of Kailash. Text 9. The abode known as Kailash is full of different herbs and vegetables, and it is sanctified by Vedic hymns and mystic yoga practice. Thus the residents of that abode are demigods by birth and have all mystic powers. Besides them, there are other human beings who are known as Kinnaras and Gandharvas, and are accompanied by their beautiful wives, who are known as Apsaras or angels. Interesting. So this is basically saying that there are all different kinds of demigods there. And these Kinnaras and Gandharvas, I've always wanted to understand who they were. Of course, we understand they're like considered like angels. And of course here it says the Apsaras are considered like angels, I guess, female angels. Text 10. Kailash is full of mountains filled with all kinds of valuable jewels and minerals, and surrounded by all varieties of valuable trees and plants. The top of the hill is nicely decorated by various types of deer. So I think it's pretty interesting that we just happen to be reading this while we're sitting on top of a mountain, like one of the largest summits in the area, in fact. It's definitely not Kailash Hill, and I don't think the people around here are necessarily demigods, although they may be ecstatic personalities. Okay. So text 11. There are many waterfalls, and in the mountains there are many beautiful caves in which the very beautiful wives of the mystics are found. Well, there you go. Just see the wives of the mystics. The beautiful wives of the mystics live in caves. We had to sit at a picnic table, which is what we're doing now. I wanted to sit on the rock that's over there, but she wouldn't sit on the rock.
Most normal people don't sit on rocks on the side of a mountain, especially when there are bugs galore, headed up by gnats.
So I wonder if on Kailash Hill there were bugs.
I refuse to believe they are.
Okay. We'll keep reading. On Kailash Hill, there is always the rhythmical sound of the peacock's sweet vibrations.
There you go.
And the bees.
Yeah, well, bees can hum over there, I don't mind.
Cuckoos are always singing, and other birds whisper amongst themselves.
There you go.
There you go. Means there's other living entities, and I can almost bet there's bugs as well.
What, gnats?
But maybe not as annoying as here. Text 13. There are tall trees with straight branches that appear to call the sweet birds. And when herds of elephants pass through the hills, it appears that the Kailash hill moves with them. When the waterfalls resound, it appears that Kailash hill does also. Okay, so this is a very interesting description of Kailash hill. We hear the waterfalls and the elephants are there. And the elephants, when they walk in the herds, they kind of shake the hill. It's a very beautiful description. Would you like to read?
Verses 14 and 15. The whole of Kailash hill is decorated with various kinds of trees, of which the following names may be mentioned: Mandara, Parijata, Sarala, Tamala, Tala, Kovidara, Asana, Arjuna, Amrajati, brackets mango, Kadamba, Duli Kadamba, Naga, Punaga, Champaka, Patala, Ashoka, Bakula, Kunda, and Kurubaka. The entire hill is decorated with such trees which produce flowers with fragrant aromas.
Amazing.
Text 16. There are other trees also which decorate the hill, such as the golden lotus flower, the cinnamon tree, the malati, kubja, malika, and madhavi. Text 17. Kailash hill is also decorated with such trees as kata, jackfruit, julara, banyan trees, palakshas, niya, grodas, and trees producing asafoetida. Oh, that's handy. Also, there are trees of betel nuts and urjapatra, as well as rajapuga blackberries and similar other trees.
That's also handy, I guess.
Text 18. There are mango trees, priyala, maduka, imguda. Besides these, there are other trees like thin bamboos, kichaka, and varieties of other bamboo trees, all decorating the tract of Kailash hill. Text 19-20. There are different kinds of lotus flowers such as kumuda, utpala, satapatra. The forest appears to be a decorated garden, and the small lakes are full of various kinds of birds who whisper very sweetly. There are many kinds of other animals also, like deer, monkeys, boar, lions, rickshaws, saryakas, forest cows, forest asses, tigers, small deer, buffalo, and many other animals who are fully enjoying their lives.
Well, that's a lot of animals on this on Kailash hill. Okay.
You want to read a show?
Well, I can read. Text 21. There are varieties of deer such as Karnantra, Ekapara, Ashvasya, Vrika, Kasturi, and Kasturi, the deer which bears musk. Besides the deer, there are many banyan trees which decorate the small hillside lakes very nicely. There is a small lake named Alakananda, in which Sati used to take her bath, and that lake is especially auspicious. All the demigods, after seeing the specific beauty of Kailash hill, were struck with wonder at the great opulence to be found there. Purport. According to the commentary called Sri Bhagavat Chandra Chandrika, the water in which Sati used to bathe was Ganges water. In other words, the Ganges flowed through the Kailash Parvat. There is every possibility of accepting such a statement because Ganges water also flows from the hair of Lord Shiva. Since Ganges water rests on the head of Lord Shiva and then flows to other parts of the universe, it is quite possible that the water in which Sati bathed, which was certainly very nicely scented, was Ganges water. So that's a nice statement, an interesting statement, I guess, because there's a place called, Gangotri? Is it Gangotri, where the Ganga originally sort of landed? And but I don't think that's necessarily in Kailash, on Kailash hill. Nevertheless, the point is that there was a place where Sati used to bathe. Alakananda. So that is the place where she used to bathe in. This was like Ganges water, or it was Ganges water, and it had a very beautiful scent and aroma.
Text 23. Thus the demigod saw the wonderfully beautiful region known as Alaka in the forest known as Sugandhika, which means full of fragrance. The forest is known as Sugandhika because of its abundance of lotus flowers. Purport. Sometimes Alaka is known as Alaka Puri, which is also the name of the abode of Kuvera. Kuvera's abode, however, cannot be seen from Kailash. Therefore, the region of Alaka referred to here is different from the Alaka Puri of Kuvera. According to Veera Raghavacharya, Alaka means uncommonly beautiful. In the region of Alaka, the demigod saw there is a type of lotus flower known as Sugandhika that distributes an especially fragrant scent.
Wow.
Interesting, because in Gujarati, Sugandh means fragrant, smell, and this flower is Sugandhika. There's a lot of similarities between Sanskrit and Gujarati.
Text 24. They also saw the two rivers named Nanda and Alakananda. These two rivers were sanctified by the dust of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda. 25. My dear Kshata Vidura, the celestial damsels come down to those rivers in their airplanes with their husbands, and after sexual enjoyment they enter the water and enjoy sprinkling their husbands with water. Taigo Premanandi. This is what the demigods get up to. Purport. It is understood that even the damsels of heavenly planets are polluted by thoughts of sex enjoyment, and therefore they come in airplanes to bathe in the rivers Nanda and Alakananda. It is significant that these rivers, Nanda and Alakananda, are sanctified by the dust of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In other words, just as the Ganges is sacred because its waters emanate from the toes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, so whenever water or anything is in touch with devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it is purified and spiritualized. The rules and regulations of devotional service are based on this principle. Anything in touch with the lotus feet of the Lord is immediately freed from all material contamination. I like that. That's powerful. Just get one like that. Oh my goodness, it's not the one to read, but that's another paragraph. So, yes. So it's interesting to point out that the demigods, they're obviously, although they're demigods, and they are advanced devotees and are performing devotional service, but their devotional service generally is understood to be mishra, or mixed. So it means they still have the desire to enjoy in the material world. I was just reading in Krishna book the other day that it was being described by the personified Vedas that there are two types of demigods created in the beginning. One is like the four Kumars, who are meant for renunciation, and one is like Marichi, who's meant for enjoying the material world. So those demigods that are meant for enjoying the material world are more like the progenitors and the Prajapatis, whose purpose is to populate the universe. So like that. That's there. So the other thing is that this nice statement, the rules and regulations of devotional service are based on this principle. Okay, what is this principle? This principle is that anything in touch with the lotus feet of the Lord is immediately freed from all material contamination. So that is one of the, I guess you could say, the principle of devotional service. That anything that is utilized in the service of the Lord or comes in contact with the lotus feet of the Lord or the service of the Lord becomes spiritualized and is no longer material. So it's free from material contamination.
Okay, next paragraph. The damsels of the heavenly planets polluted by thoughts of sex life come down to bathe in the sanctified rivers and enjoy sprinkling water on their husbands. Two words are very significant in this connection. Rati Kasita means that the damsels become morose after sex enjoyment. Although they accept sex enjoyment as a bodily demand, afterwards they are not so happy.
Any thoughts? That's interesting, I think, because that wasn't in the translation that I remember. Rati Karshitaha means that the damsels become morose. It didn't say that in the translation, did it?
Yeah, at the end, Rati Kasita, whose enjoyment has become diminished.
Yeah, but Prabhupada doesn't say it in the translation, in the word for word. In the word for word, but not in the actual translation.
No.
So
yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
So it doesn't come across there, which is interesting because it leaves you thinking one thing, but when you get into the purport, it's another. And if you look at the word for word, that would be explained.
Yeah, interesting.
So it is interesting that he doesn't translate that, but it means that to a greater or lesser extent, they realize that there is no ultimate satisfaction in this, and so they feel morose. Now we haven't heard yet why these two rivers are sanctified. It says they're sanctified by the dust of the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, the Nanda and Alakananda. But we've yet to hear exactly how or why, right? It hasn't said that, so hopefully that will be explained. But it means that because these ladies, they become morose, then they want to go and purify themselves by bathing in this holy river. So that's what's described by most. What's happening? Right.
It's a bug.
Okay. On me or?
No, on the bench.
Okay. It's an ant.
Yeah, but it's a killer ant. It's not any ant that I've seen here.
Okay.
In London.
Okay. So it hasn't been explained what these two rivers are, but people go to the holy rivers to bathe themselves, to purify themselves and free themselves from sinful reactions. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting that they're feeling like that, but at least they're going to a holy river to try to, relieve themselves or make up for it. Mm-hmm. Okay. Next paragraph in the same purport, text 25. Another significant point is that Lord Govinda, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is described here as Tirthapad. Tirtha means sanctified place, and Pada means the lotus feet of the Lord. People go to a sanctified place to free themselves from all sinful reactions. I think I just said that. And in other words, those who are devoted to the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, automatically become sanctified. Mm-hmm. The Lord's lotus feet are called Tirthapada, because under their protection there are hundreds and thousands of saintly persons who sanctify the sacred places of pilgrimage. Srila Narottam Das Thakur, a great acharya in the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, advises us not to travel to different places of pilgrimage. Mm-hmm. Advises us not to travel to different places of pilgrimage. Undoubtedly, it is troublesome to go from one place to another, but one who is intelligent can take shelter of the lotus feet of Govinda and thereby be automatically sanctified as the result of his pilgrimage. The point being that you don't need to go to a holy place when the Lord's divine lotus feet are available anywhere. So just take shelter of them, and that's the same as going anywhere into any holy dham. Anyone who is fixed in the service of the lotus feet of Govinda is also called Tirthapad. He does not need to travel on various pilgrimages, for he can enjoy all the benefits of such travel simply by engaging in the service of the lotus feet of the Lord. Such a pure devotee who has implicit faith in the lotus feet of the Lord can create sacred places. let's try that again. Such a pure devotee who has implicit faith. What?
Some giant mosquito.
It was a mosquito. Yeah, that's what did it.
It's crazy on this mountain.
Such a pure devotee who has implicit faith in the lotus feet of the Lord can create sacred places in any part of the world where he decides to remain. Tirtha Korvanti Tirthani, Bhagavatam 1:13-10. I think this was used to describe Uncle Vidura, who's also in this. This conversation is between Maitreya and Vidura. The places are sanctified due to the presence of pure devotees. Any place automatically becomes a place of pilgrimage if either the Lord or his pure devotees remain or reside there. In other words, such a pure devotee who is engaged 100% in the service of the Lord, now that's pretty clear, 100%, can remain anywhere in the universe, and that part of the universe immediately becomes a sacred place where he can peacefully render service to the Lord as the Lord desires. So this is really wonderful. I'm just so inspired by this. So this is, so first of all, we have to be engaged 100%. That's a tough one. 100%, we may as well say 108%. We just have to be fully engaged in the service of the Lord. That's our only purpose, our only goal. All of our activities are very clearly directed to the service of the Lord. Then wherever that person goes, it becomes like a place of pilgrimage. So wherever he goes, she goes, they reside and perform devotional service, you can get purified just by going there. I remember going to New Braj Dham. Some devotees are there at the moment. Going to New Braj Dham and having the experience in New Braj Dham of it being like being in the Holy Dham. Because if you've ever been to the Holy Dham, then you know it's like a very mystical and enchanting place. And you always feel the presence of the Lord. There's always like synchronicities happening, and sometimes you think things and they manifest. So when we're engaged 10% in the service of the Lord, we will experience that same kind of feeling or sensation or lifestyle wherever we go. And then if we go to places like that where holy people are doing that, in their presence we will also feel that same experience, heightened sense of devotion and engagement in the Lord's service. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, so if you're okay, we could probably stop.
I think so.
I think she's had just about enough of this Kailash hill. So we're going to stop there. And we thank you all very much for tuning in and remaining such loyal enthusiasts of the Bhagavatam. So we're going to pick up with text 26 next time. Until then, Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for joining us for the Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam readings. Anything you'd like to say in closing?
I think you said everything for everyone, the whole world.
Well, there you go. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
jai. Nitai go Premanandi. Hare Hare Bol.